Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Log Show here on YouTube, soon to be on TikTok very soon, very soon. I am your host, Logan Likev, and it feels so good to be back here on the mic and on the show and here on YouTube. So much has happened since the last time I was here on YouTube. It was back in December. The last time I was here on YouTube, it was a very long time ago. So much has happened since then. My now alma mater, St. John's, they won the Big East tournament and the regular season title for the first time in 25 years. Hope to do it again coming up this season with Rick Pitino in that #1 recruiting class. Not only that, basketball was so alive this year in New York with the New York Knicks going absolutely bonkers, taking over not only the city of New York, but the entire world with the way that they went on their run to the Eastern Conference Finals, upset the Boston Celtics in that second round, and made everybody in the city so excited, so much hope in the city there. On the football sense, we saw the Philadelphia Eagles surprisingly stop that three-peat that so many thought the Chiefs were going to go on. I was one of those people who thought the Chiefs were going to go on that, but the Philadelphia Eagles came out and surprised many in that Super Bowl and dominated that for their second Super Bowl ever. Speaking of the NFL, that season sneaking up upon us here with, well, in 2 days, folks, we have a Hall of Fame game. I can't wait for that. Football is back. Preseason is back. Training camp is going on. Baseball is going on. We have both Hall of Fames. We got the Yankees, the Mets, both playing well. We got, like I just said, both Hall of Fames happening. Baseball's just happened last weekend. Football's happening this weekend. We got some fun predictions for the NFL season coming up here. I am so happy to be back, and I can't wait to get into it. And I am starting the day off with baseball. Baseball is what is on my mind today. I'm going to a Yankee game tomorrow when they play the Tampa Bay Rays. I am excited to watch that game very, very, very much. I cannot wait to see those guys live in person. I mean, they have been making me very, very, very upset recently. I cannot lie with the way that they've been playing since the All-Star break. Not very well. 4-6 since the All-Star break. And the worst news that they could have gotten was what just happened, and that is the captain of the team, Aaron Judge. He is put on the 10-day IL a few days ago. He's out for a minimum of 10 days. To see what they do is interesting. As of the reports recently, it seems like what they are going to do is put Giancarlo Stanton there in outfield, in right field, which I don't know. I mean, with the schedule coming up for the New York Yankees, they have a good handful of home games. With the way that we've seen Stanton run, I don't see how he could really, in all honesty, I don't see how he could play right field in any other stadium besides a Yankee stadium. But even with that, I don't know. I find it very interesting that that's the route that they chose to go, was with Stanton of all people. I see someone like Spencer Jones sitting there in your minor leagues, who's been playing absolutely unreal so far this year. So far in 19 games in the minors, he has 13 home runs. He's batting .400. He has a .950 slugging. He's getting to that age. A lot of people like to call him Baby Judge, this and that. I don't watch enough minor league baseball to really, I don't watch the film on minor league baseball, I'll be completely honest there. But if I'm doing what a lot of the baseball gurus do in the MLB these days, and I'm going to go based off the stats, I don't see a reason why Spencer Jones should not be called up. It's not like he's super young. I believe he's 22 or 23, if I remember correctly. So he's on that older side of the minor leagues. He's been there for a while. And I just see this as an opportunity where you can have him similar to a Jason Dominguez player last year, or those players that you've had, like you did it with Gary Sanchez and Judge when they were the year before Judge won Rookie of the Year, where you have this opportunity to give him these major league at bats, really see what Spencer Jones will do against these major league pitchers with the prospect that he has been for us and how highly touted we've had him in our farm system for as long as we have. I don't see why in any other situation you would look anywhere else other than Spencer Jones. I don't know why you would go with a Giancarlo who has refused to play the outfield for so long. And it was such a big problem when he was still healthy and his knees were still good and all of that, that he wouldn't play the outfield. Now he's willing to, which I appreciate that much. I do say that was a big knock on I had on him for a very, very long time, was the fact that he refused. And I hated the fact that he refused. It was, why are you always refusing? And I appreciate the effort and the attempt and the try of, I'm not going to refuse. I'm willing to do this, but we have the space. Grisham's playing well. I know Jason Dominguez hasn't been great defensively, but he's been a great hitter. You can't take him out of the lineup. And he's not an atrocious liability in left field, especially when you're playing at home. Grisham has been having an exceptional season. So has Cody Bellinger. He has showed up so well for the Yankees this year. Has become a fan favorite. Just time after time has come up big for this team. Great games over and over again. 3 home run games, 2 home run games. Amazing plays in the field, these sliding plays in the field, all of this that you've seen out of Cody Bellinger this year. He's been so exceptional. So I just don't see a reason why you'd force Giancarlo to get these reps in the outfield where you could keep him as a DH, still get your rest, and call this kid up for a little bit because you have Judge on the IL. You have the excuse. If I remember the rules correctly, because Judge is on the IL, once Judge is uninjured, you have the room to call him back down. So I don't see the point in not calling up Spencer Jones, especially when you're already having struggles defensively. And I know you just made these 2 moves to oppose that. You made the move for Ryan McMahon, who in his 4 games as a Yankee has been exceptional, has made some great plays defensively, is batting, I believe, I have it written down. I want to say 4. Yeah, he's batting .444, 3 RBIs in his 4 games as a Yankee. He's been amazing. We finally got a sneak peek at Ahmed Rosario in his first game as a Yankee last night with his first at-bat. From everything I've read about Ahmed Rosario, he is an amazing defender, something that honestly, looking at and what we have dealt with as the Yankees so far this year, Volpe should be scared of Ahmed Rosario coming in, the way that he is able to bat, the way that he's able to play with his glove. I wouldn't be surprised if Boone tries it soon to see what could happen, especially with, he wasn't playing terrible. Now, he wasn't playing every day over there in Washington. He was playing about half the games. He has just over 100 at-bats, but he was batting .270. He had 18 RBIs. He's not this big power at-bat, but again, I've talked about this with many of my friends and many other Yankee fans. A lot of people said that about Jazz coming in. The same things that they're saying about Ahmed Rosario, a lot of things were said about Jazz when we traded for him last year, in the sense of not a big power bat, good glove, a little flashy. Ahmed Rosario's doesn't have that flashy tag to him, but still, the whole sense of just a good glove, not a bad hitter, but he's not taking you yard always. And we worked on Jazz's power. That's what the Yankees are very good at right now. That's what their hitting coaches are very good at, is getting people to get those balls on the right launch angle, to get them to have that right exit velo, to be able to just get over. That's the thing. And about the Yankees too, is you have the advantage of, you only have to make it so that these small power guys in Ahmed Rosario, in what a lot of people said about Jazz, and I know Jazz had a very poor showing in the home run derby, which just accentuates what I'm going to say, is all you got to do is make sure that they can knock it over short porch. I'm a Yankee fan, so I love short porch. I know a lot of people complain about it. A lot of people hate it. I love short porch. And it's a situation where 110%, that's all you need Ahmed Rosario to do, power-wise, is be able to, if he hits the ball well, you poked it over short porch. That's a home run in half of the games that you're going to play. That's a home run in half the games that you're going to play is just poke it over that right field fence. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. They got the Rays coming up. They lost last night to Tampa Bay. They play later tonight against Tampa Bay. And then I go to hopefully the rubber match tomorrow, Wednesday night, 7:05. Yankee Cowboy hat night. Yeehaw. Man, that yeehaw killed me. But, yeah. So, hopefully they could get back in stride. Hopefully you could get Luis Heel back soon. That pitching really needs to start clicking. Just when some people get on the mound as of recently, it just hasn't worked at all. You have, it feels like every time Loaisiga has hopped on the mound recently, or Loaisiga, however you say it, every time he's hopped on the mound recently, it feels like that he just... It just doesn't click for him. It just feels like he gives up runs. It feels like when Rodon messes up bad. Don't get me wrong. Carlos Rodon is having a very exceptional season, a better season than he's had in his career his best season so far as a Yankee. But you saw it last night, especially when Rodon messes up bad. He's gonna give up home runs. He's gonna give up runs. Rodon is gonna give up runs, and that's what we need. We need Fried to get back on that game that we saw at the beginning of the year where he was just an absolute ace and he was the best pitcher in the league for that 100% portion of time. It was him or Skubal were the best two pitchers in the league. Fried has been on a slump recently, but he could click back into it and it could work great. There's a lot of what goes on there pitching wise. Will Warren, it just some guys in the rotation. You get Stroman, who's streaky. One day Stroman will go 2 runs, 6 innings, and the next day Stroman gives up 4 in an inning and a half. And it's just, you have all this streakiness here out of them, and it's just not working. But they need to get it together. They're 7.5 games back last time I checked. I don't know what happened with Toronto last night. So if Toronto won last night, then they're 8.5 games back. But they're in a slump and they got to pick it up if they want to do it with anything close to what they did last year. Because if you really look at this team, what the problems are with this team are what not only the problems were last year, but what the problems that were highlighted were in the World Series. It's defensive issues. The Yankees could hit the baseball. No one's worried about whether the Yankees can hit the baseball when you have a lineup that has Cody Bellinger. You have a lineup that has, when he's healthy, Aaron Judge. You have a lineup that does have Giancarlo Stanton that when he hits well, when he's on a good hitting streak, he hits very well. Paul Goldschmidt hits well. You have Grisham off the bench who's been hitting well this year. But then defensively, you're just making these errors. You saw it in the Phillies game a couple days ago where they were still down at this point. I want to say it was 4-2. And you have a routine double play, and Jazz bobbles the routine double play on the transition to his hand. Or you have these throws by Volpe that are just skipping to Goldschmidt, and Goldschmidt can't make the pick. And you can't get mad at Goldschmidt because it's a throw that Volpe should be making. And not only that, you have at third base until these past 4 games with McMahon, and you saw it last night where he made this exceptionally great play at third base where he backhanded a ball, threw it slightly off balance, and it was a dot to Paul Goldschmidt. It was an absolute dot to Paul Goldschmidt, and you saw that. And that's something the Yankees haven't had at third base for a long time, especially with Oswaldo Cabrera out with the broken leg, and you have Vivas who's been trying, but Vivas has just been making mistake after mistake. Has had a few errors over the past few games. Before the All-Star break, had a few errors. Had that big error that everyone talked about right after the All-Star break on that amazing throw by Tatis, where he just kept running. Apparently, I don't know. From what I saw, I wanted to blame the third base coach because I felt like he told him to keep going. Apparently, he told him to stop, and Vivas was too deep in the line and felt like ignoring the call. I don't know the details on that, but my point is it's mental mistakes that the Yankees are making. They're good baseball players they got out there. They got a lot of good baseball players out there. I really do believe that they do. But what they don't have is the mental fortitude to not make these mistakes as they keep going and as it keeps just battling on through whatever it is. And come October, come later in the year, you're fighting for this wild card spot that, I mean, realistically, you should be a shoo-in for if you don't win the division. 7 games isn't crazy with the amount of games you have left in baseball, but you're making your path harder. You want to play in Yankee Stadium. You want to have the bye like you did last year. You want to have that hype because you never know when another team's going to get hot. Use example of the Mets last year. The Mets got hot late last year. There was a point last year where there was no one in the stadium at the end of the year. They got hot late last year, made the NLCS. That attracted a hot free agent named Juan Soto from across the bridge. And now they're sitting there. They're at first in their division. They're one of the best teams over there in the NL. You don't want to get caught by one of those teams by risking it, by not winning your division, by not, doing the small things is really the big thing is what I'm trying to get to. Not doing the small things. They're just not doing the small things. And the small things are what has to be done. The small things are what has to be done no matter what. At the end of the day, the small things are what has to be done. But since I brought them up, I'll move over to that team over there in the other borough, the one that my college is in. Over there at Citi Field, the New York Mets. They have been doing the exact opposite of the Yankees. As much as I've been saying the Yankees have been sucking recently, the Mets, until last night, were winning a lot. They just lost for the first time. The Padres snapped a 7-game win streak last night against the Mets that the Mets had in a very exciting game, a 6-6 game that was walked off at the end of the day. Funny, the alert that I got when it happened because I wasn't watching the game live. Sorry to the Mets fans watching. I don't actively watch the Mets. I pay attention, but I don't actively watch the Mets at all, sadly. So what I did see is at the end of the day, the alert that I got blamed Edwin Diaz. It goes, Edwin Diaz choked the game away, and bases were loaded. I load on the clip. I was like, you have to throw a meatball for you to straight blame the pitcher. Like, it could have just been a good hit. No. Edwin Diaz threw a meatball to lose that game. But otherwise, the Mets are on an absolute tear right now. Everyone's playing well over there. Lindor, as much as I have the vendetta against Soto and this and that because I'm a Yankee fan and I feel like I'm supposed to have this vendetta against Soto, even though I really don't care because I feel like what we ended up with at the end of the day after Soto is a better all-around team. I feel like it was something that was better for both teams. The Mets needed their star to make them feel like that they could be big brother over the Yankees. They're playing better than the Yankees right now. And the Yankees didn't need to pay someone $750 million. They had bigger issues. And those bigger issues were very much accentuated in the World Series. And you look at that, and it was better for both teams, and they're playing very, very well right now. Lindor's playing well right now. You have so much going on right now in just everything seems to be clicking over there. Alonso's having an absolute ridiculous season right now of just. I mean, someone called in WFAN the other night when I was driving home with my friend, and they talked about how they felt like he was like Alonso might be the NL MVP, and there is a dude who exists named Shohei Ohtani, who's still having a ridiculous season. He's so good that he's having another MVP season and just nobody talks about it because it's casual for Shohei Ohtani at this point. But that is not to knock the season that Alonso is having. Pete Alonso is having an absolutely bafflingly good season. The best season that he's had of his career. He's the best batting average as of right now, the season ended today of his career. He is the best OPS on base plus slugging or since his rookie year. I think his rookie year was the only one that was better when I looked earlier. There was one season that was better. It was either his rookie or his second year. If I remember correctly, though, it's his rookie year. So he's just having a great year. The Mets are clicking, and when you look at the National League, it's weird. It kind of feels like, and it's weird to say this as we're sitting here and the Yankees are still so far back on the Blue Jays, but it's like I feel like when I look over at the NL, the Mets are playing well. You have the Dodgers. You have you have the Padres. You have the Phillies, who all feel like teams that they could really go on a run, especially those four. In the AL, I feel like you have three. Like, I feel like you sit there and you go, well, the Yankees could get hot with the team that they had and the team that they have and what happened last year. The Yankees could get hot. You never know that. You felt like the Tigers were great for a while, but with the slump that they've been going on, are they frauds? Do we know? Do we really know what's going on with Detroit? You know, you got Toronto. Toronto's scrappy. I can't not say them. Obviously, they're 7.5 games up on us on the Yankees right now. They're a scrappy team. They're good. But what are you going to tell me? What are you going to tell me? Houston doesn't like. I don't feel like any of these other AL teams feel like they're going to go on a run, and they feel like this World Series team. So I don't know. The Mets to see what the Mets do to go on further in the season, especially in October, will be extremely, extremely fun and interesting to see. Like, with no doubt, extremely, extremely fun and interesting to see what happens with the Mets because just because of the competition in the National League. Just because you're going to have to go through a Padres, you're going to have to go through a Phillies, you're going to have to go through a Dodgers. There's someone you're going to have to go through. It's going to be tough for the Mets. But that's all I got on baseball. I'll talk more about baseball soon. But that's all I really got. That's all I got. Yankees piss me off, man. Yankees piss me off. Yankees piss me off, man. We're going to move on to football. We are going to move on to football. Football is here, folks. And I am not joking when I say football is here. We have the Hall of Fame game this Thursday, July 31st. We have the Detroit Lions and the LA Chargers matching up down there in Canton, Ohio. It will be a fun one. I can't wait to watch it. I mean, I say it'll be a fun one. I'll be honest. For those of you who aren't like me, who sports is what you live for, sports is what you die for, you don't know what your life is without the life of sports, especially the sport of football, which I love to watch. You're lucky if you see the second strings in the Hall of Fame game, I'll be honest. Like, I'll never forget a few years ago when the Raiders played and Josh Jacobs played in the Hall of Fame game. And it was the sign of just the Hall of Fame game, or Josh Jacobs was out of Oakland, because you protect your players in the Hall of Fame game. It's a game that is there for more of the symbolism than it is more of the symbolism than I would say it is the actual game itself. It's just a preseason game at the end of the day. But you look around and it gets very interesting in that preseason game. You get to see some people who maybe make a name for themselves. What I always look at that game as it is very much a game where you're looking at You're looking at a lot of things there. You're looking at a lot of people who are fighting for jobs, and it's fun to see that. It's fun to see people fighting for jobs and fighting for a living, because that's where you get good football. Sometimes it's sloppy football, but it's very hard fought football, very determined football. So it's fun to watch. I don't know who's going to win. I barely even know anyone who's going to touch the field. Part of me would like to say Detroit just based off, you know, last year and Detroit's been good recently, but also part of me would go on the other hand of Jim Harbaugh. He's coached a lot of young guys before. He won a national championship not too long ago. So if you want me to, if you wanted the fun of putting a bet on it, I'm not going to bet on the Hall of Fame game personally. I like to bet on football, don't get me wrong, but the Hall of Fame game is not a game I'm going to bet on. I would honestly bet on the Chargers. I'm not gonna lie. I'd say I bet on the Chargers. I really would. I would bet on the Chargers. But what I do want to talk about actually is the local teams. I went to school here in New York. I live here in New Jersey. Local teams are the New York Jets, New York Giants. I'm a Saints fan, so those always get thrown in as well. But that's what I love to talk about here, and I do want to talk about them because I want to talk about what's going on with them. I feel like we got a lot of excitement here in New York going into this season with the Jets and their new chance of Justin Fields, and Garrett Wilson is still Garrett Wilson. You not only have that, you have like I said, you have not only Garrett Wilson, you have Sauce Gardner. That defense hopefully is going to take a step up this year. You have Breece Hall. You have a lot of good running backs back there. You have Braylon Allen. You have Isaiah Stewart. You got a lot of good people back there. And then on the other side, you got the Giants. The Giants had an exceptional draft. I remember saying this to a lot of people at the place that I work at and a lot of my friends who are Giants fans and just a lot of people around me, that going into the draft, I said an exceptional draft for the Giants would be drafting Abdul Carter at 3 and then somehow trading back in and getting Jackson Dart. That's what they did. Now, I got my friend Vin over here in the chat talking crazy, saying the Jets will make the playoffs. I don't know about that. I was doing my schedule earlier, though, Vin, and I do actually... I'll talk about that in a little bit because it's in my bold predictions, but the Jets. Jets, baby. Fireman Ed. Fireman Ed might have a happy year. But yeah, so I do want to get into that. I have a list here that I made. I apologize for that, but I have a list here that I made of bold predictions for the season. Coming up this year, I have 3 for each of the teams that I had mentioned earlier. I have 3 for the Giants, 3 for the Jets, and 3 for my favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. So to kick it off, I will talk about the New York Giants, actually, is the first team I want to get into about. It's the New York Giants. I feel a lot for the New York Giants this year. I feel it's an interesting year for the New York Giants with obviously you drafting in Jackson Dart and seeing how that goes, seeing what happens there. But then not only the Jackson Dart sense of it, you did bring in Russell Wilson. You did bring in Jameis Winston. You did draft Abdul Carter. You have Dexter Lawrence. You have Kayvon Thibodeau. You signed Paulson Adebo from the Saints. You're making moves and trying to get better, clearly, the New York Giants. And what I see out of the New York Giants this year, if I'm going to make my bold predictions here talking about the New York Giants, the first one is talking about another great draft piece I think they got that a lot of people love. I think a lot of people love the hype on him. I think a lot of people will be looking forward to him, and I think there's a big hype on him, so a lot of people will be preparing for him, but it's Cam Scatterbo. I love Cam Scatterbo. What he was able to do at Arizona State over the past 2 years was absolutely exceptional, especially last year, especially in that bowl game against Ashton Genty in that CFB playoff game. You have him arguably outperform Ashton Genty in that game. Not only that, you could argue that he's the second best running back in the country. If not, it's him. Maybe you say Junkins. Maybe you say... I'm blanking on the other dude from Ohio State right now. Maybe you say him. There's those other guys that were very good. But what Scatabo was able to do last year, he was second in the country in rushing yards. He was sixth in the country in touchdowns. He had over 2,000 all-purpose yards. I think he's going to have an exceptional year. What I actually think out of Scatabo is out of the running backs, don't get me wrong, I think Ashton Genty is absolutely amazing. I think Charger, North Carolina guy, I can't remember his name either. Quinshawn Mitchell, right? I want to say it's Quinshawn Mitchell. He's amazing too. But I'm going to take Scatabo. He's going to lead all rookies this year in all-purpose yards. Or, yeah, he's going to lead all rookies this year in all-purpose yards and all-purpose touchdowns, total touchdowns. I think what he's able to do out of the backfield is very underrated. And I think Brian Daboll is going to be able to take advantage of that exceptionally. Knowing what he was able to do with Saquon Barkley, when Saquon Barkley had absolutely nobody. He had Daniel Jones. He had nothing there. I think what he's going to be able to do with Cam Scatabo is going to be something absolutely exceptional. I think Scatabo is going to have a great year. So I'm going to take him as someone who arguably maybe a Rookie of the Year candidate. I am talking big there, but definitely someone who I would look forward to, who is going to obviously lead the Giants in rush yards this year, in my opinion. But not only that, I think he might lead all rookies in total yards. In total yards out of the backfield with what he's able to do. I think he's a little better out of the backfield than Genty. As good as Genty is as a runner, I think, you have Scatabo who's a little better out of the backfield. So I'd take Scatabo in this situation to really, to try his best and to end up as the leading rusher. Not only that, my second bold prediction for the New York Giants is Russell Wilson. Yes, Russell Wilson. He will throw for over 3,000 yards and under 10 interceptions if he stays healthy for all 16 games this year. I believe it. Now, there's never been a point in Russ's career where he has not had one or the other happen. In any year where he has thrown for over 10 interceptions or more, he has thrown for over 3,000 yards. The only year that he hadn't thrown for 3,000 yards was last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Only played 11 games there. Still threw for 2,500 yards in 11 games, but only had 6 interceptions last year, so had the mark of under 10 interceptions. And I don't know. I'm feeling something about Russ. I'm feeling dangerous. I'm feeling like Mr. Unlimited is going to be back for the Giants. And not in the sense of like winning divisions or winning conference or winning playoff games or MVP Russ that we once saw in Seattle. I do not mean in that sense at all when I say Mr. Unlimited will be back, but I do mean in the sense that I don't think we are going to see for at least another year or two until he is kicked out of New York for Jackson Dart whenever that time comes, that I don't feel like that we are going to see that Denver Russ again. It was 1 year where he really had that super down year. And I think the system that Daboll has, if you look at it, if he runs the same system that he was running with Daniel Jones that was successful 2 years ago, that got them to the playoffs 2 years ago, that surprise year where they gave Daniel Jones all that money. I don't know if that was 2-3 years ago, but you look at that year and that situation, if you run a similar offense, I don't see why Russell Wilson can't have success out of this. Malik Neighbors is very good at short routes within 10 yards. It's very good there. And you have, like I said, you have Scatabo. You have a good your offensive line is definitely upgraded from last year. And I could see it happening is kind of what I'm trying to get to. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to see, but from what I saw in Pittsburgh last year, if you can just minimize the mistakes, you're going to get a Russ that is going to play well, as long as you minimize mistakes. And I got the chat over here saying that I don't see Dart coming. I don't see Dart starting anytime this year, and I mean that in a good way, because it would be a rush. There's no Cam Ward was the only quarterback talent in this year's draft that was good to start day one. And I think Dart needs the time to just catch up to speed. I think all the intangibles are there, the work ethic's there, the leadership is there, but I think he needs a year to catch up to speed. So I just feel that it's a situation where I don't know. And like I just said, my bold prediction, I don't think Russ is going to do that bad. I really don't. I really don't. My final bold prediction for the Giants isn't as bold as many people think. I feel like another thing, it's not, the Scatabo was a little bolder than more people were going with Scatabo. I think a lot of people are very high on Cam Scatabo. But my final bold prediction for the New York Giants here is I think that they are going to have a top 3 pass rush in the league, maybe the best pass rush in the league. I brought them up earlier. You have Abdul Carter, which if you haven't looked at Abdul Carter at Penn State, go back and watch the film. This man is a generational. This is one of those Myles Garretts, these I don't want to use Jadeveon Clowney in that same sense, but these J.J. Watts, these defensive ends where they're the Micah Parsons, where it's just these guys are so good at the skill of being a pass rusher that I wouldn't be surprised if he leads that team in sacks this year, even with Sexy Dexy there, even with Kayvon Thibodeau there. I wouldn't be surprised if Abdul Carter came out this year and immediately led that team in sacks. He's ridiculous. And then, like I said, you have Sexy Dexy, who is the best pass rushing nose tackle in the league. As much as people would like to deny it, as much as I used to like to deny it, he proves those people wrong over and over again. That Sexy Dexy Dexter Lawrence is exceptionally good at pass rushing up the middle, just bull rushing centers, just getting through those double teams and getting in the quarterback's face throughout that time. And then you have Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side, who maybe was not this all-time stud like I'm saying Abdul Carter will be, like originally some thought Kayvon Thibodeau had the potential to be out of the draft. But Kayvon Thibodeau is still an exceptionally good pass rusher. He's very good. He was very good last year. I want to say he had 6.5 sacks last year. And he started wrestling this offseason as well, which I love to see. He started wrestling this offseason as well because when he looked at his stats, he had, I think he had 10 half sacks completely, like record-wise throughout the games. You know what I mean? They were Raz half sacks. Obviously, 2 half sacks will equal a sack. But he was upset about that. So what does he do? He goes trains when wrestling. Goes trains on double legs and single leg takedowns. Because that's the point of wrestling, is a takedown. So he could get the complete sack and get the quarterback to the ground without needing the help from teammates. That's something I love to see. So to see what this Giants defensive front is going to be able to do. Now, the linebackers, I don't know. They scare me a little bit. They impressed a little bit last year. Brian O'Carrick impressed a lot last year. So you have some linebackers that could definitely make some noise and hopefully take a step up for the Giants. Secondary-wise, there are spots that worry me. I'm going to give you the warning now as a big Saints fan. Watch out for Paulson Adebo. Watch out for the mistakes he'll make, because the mistakes he'll make are going to be big ones. Paulson Adebo is going to mess up, and when he messes up, these wide receivers are going to be more open than you've ever seen. But if we're talking about that pass rush and getting to the quarterback, the Giants are going to be better than anyone in the league. They're going to be up there with the top of the league in that pass rush, and it's going to win them more games than expected, and I genuinely believe that. And on the whole, more games than expected. Like, it's the same thing. There's no situation where, you should be, unless you're 0-10, there's no situation that Dart should touch the field. Yeah, unless you're 0-10, 0-100, obviously you can't be 0-100, but you know what I mean. That's the only situation where I could see Jackson Dart should hit the field, really. It's the only field. It's the only situation. Now for the Jets, the bold predictions for the New York Jets. The New York Jets, man. This is what you were waiting for, Vin. My friend Vin over here in the chat of the live stream. It's what you were waiting for. The Jets. What do I feel about the Jets this year? Well, the first thing I'm going to say about the Jets this year is the Jets are in a weird spot. You got Justin Fields. After this failed Aaron Rodgers experiment and what happened there, what is going to happen to the New York Jets? You've had a lot of ups and downs. You have a new head coach there in Aaron Glenn now. What is going to happen? The Robert Saleh thing didn't work. The Aaron Rodgers thing didn't work. Every time it seems like something for the New York Jets is going to work, it never works. And now we're in a spot where you have a head coach, have a quarterback that not a lot of people wanted. Not a lot of people feel like it's going to work. But I do. I'm going to be honest, I do. And that goes into my first bold prediction with the Jets. And it's not has to do anything with stats. It doesn't have to do anything with stats or wins or anything like that. It has to do with this. I think finally Justin Fields finds a home. I think the Jets play well enough this year that Justin Fields finds a home. I think Justin Fields will be on the Jets for a few years after this year. I think he finds a home. I think he plays well. I think he has a good surrounding cast on that offense. I think he's fast enough to honestly make up in a weird way for some of those mistakes of that O-line. And hopefully that O-line could step up, really. Hopefully they can. I expect them to. And I think that Justin Fields really finds a home here in New York. That's my first bold prediction for the New York Jets. It's Justin Fields finds a home here with Aaron Glenn, with this offense, with Braylon Allen, with these receivers. You still got all these guys here that you have left over from the failed Aaron Rodgers experiment. You got some good guys. You got Conklin at tight end. You're a lot better than, or I wouldn't say a lot better, but you're just as good, if not better, than what Pittsburgh was giving him last year, and he was winning games with Pittsburgh. So I don't see any reason why you're not winning games here at all. I really don't. I don't see any reason why you're not winning games here. My second bold prediction for the Jets has to go to their roster, does have to go to stats, does have to go to yardage, does have to go to who's playing, who's not. And it's the fact that I think Breece Hall's time as a New York Jet is done, and I think Braylon Allen takes over down there as the number one running back. I think it's about time that it happens down there. When you just look at what happened last year, Braylon Allen was averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Was able to come in a lot, especially with Breece Hall coming off that injury. And then you look at this, and Breece Hall's even addressed it in the media himself that technically no one is except the people who came in this year, but he's not their guy. And on a contract year, it's scary when you're not their guy, because are you going to pay him? Are you going to sit here and are you going to pay Breece Hall? It's a big decision for the New York Jets to make. Are you going to pay Breece Hall? Why are you going to pay Breece Hall? Is he that good? That's the question you're asking yourself if you're the New York Jets. I'm not saying that as if I think Breece Hall is bad, but I'm saying that's the questions you're asking if you're sitting here as the New York Jets. And when you're sitting here as the New York Jets, you have to wonder of, you got Braylon Allen who's young and good and could take over. You have Isaiah Davis, who you also drafted that same year as Braylon Allen, who's also good. You have Fields who could take some carries. And the bad side of it is this, is it is a business. And if they're equal, you're going to go with the business decision. If you're going to look at this in camp as the Jets, and Braylon Allen is going to give you just as much production and be just as good after week 2, you realize it, as Breece Hall is going to be, that's where the business side of the game comes in, of the NFL, of the company, of the business side of being the New York Jets organization comes in. Is, well, if we run Braylon Allen more, Brees is worth less. So maybe we can keep him and then run him through the roof because we know what we got. So what they do there is going to be a very interesting situation. But I think this year you're going to see a lot more of Braylon Allen. And I think by the end of the year, similar to a situation what we saw last year, if he's not the set number one by the end of the year, it's going to be a situation like we see in Jacksonville right now where we're going into, they're going to let Brees Hall walk. And going into next year, Braylon Allen's going to be number one. Jacksonville didn't let not Achan. Why am I getting him confused with Achan? I'm blanking on his name, and I'm just thinking it's Devon Achan who's on the Dolphins. But they didn't let him walk, but Tank Bigsby seems to be RB1 down there in Jacksonville. So, I don't see why the Jets would do anything different. And my final bold prediction for the Jets was, I didn't finish it, but I was doing my schedule predictions earlier, my way too early schedule predictions, just to get a glimpse into the season. And knowing that I was going to talk about the Jets and Giants today, I did them first, just to be able to talk about it. And looking at schedules, looking at what they have going on so far this year, I really, really, really think that the Jets are they might be second in the AFC East. I give them 7-9. I'm not big on Miami this year. I'm really not. I mean, yeah, you got Minka. Like, okay, you brought back Minka, but I don't love Tyreek Hill. Achan's coming off an injury. You got Raheem Mostert also coming off an injury. I like the coaching down there. Don't get me wrong. I do like Mike McDaniel, and I like the coaching down there very much. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Miami. But I think the Jets are going to be sneaky good this year, and I'm right now looking at what I looked at, giving them a 7-9 record. I genuinely believe it. I genuinely believe it. A 7-9 record for the New York Jets this year. I think they'll play well. I think Justin Fields will play well. I don't think he'll have a crazy numbers stat. I think he might have a good amount of rush yards. I think he might have a good amount of rushing touchdowns. Fields. I don't think he's gonna I don't think he's gonna blow the roof off with anything like yardage wise or passing touchdown wise. But I think the Jets are gonna be a good all around team this year. I really do. I really do, and I think it's interesting to see around the league and what's happening and obviously Buffalo there in the AFC East. Josh Allen had such an exceptional year. I don't see that dying down. I'll get into them later because I want to talk about playoffs and way too early Super Bowl picks and stuff like that. But I've lost all that hype on the Miami Dolphins, man. I just don't see it anymore. And then I don't see it in New England either. I just don't. Those two teams just seem so dead to me. I don't know why. It's just the energy out of there. I feel it feels so dead. It feels like how people, it's weird to make the comparison, but energies out of camp resonate. You know what I'm saying? And, you saw it last year. I want to use them as an example in Cincinnati, where there was nothing big resonating out of Cincinnati camp last year. And even this year, you could argue that, too, where you could be scared of Cincinnati because there was nothing good coming out of camp. The biggest news out of Cincinnati camp was the whole thing with Shamar Stewart. And are they going to pay him, or is he going to go back to college? They almost wasted a draft pick and let a dude go back to college. So I don't hear all that hype out of Dolphins camp like we have felt the past few years. I just don't see it. So, I don't know if they're scared of Tua in his head. I don't know what's going on down there, honestly. I just don't feel it, though. I just don't feel it. I don't feel it. On to my two bold predictions for the New Orleans Saints. Some good old predictions for my Saints that I doubt anyone here cares about. No one cares about but me. As you can see, I'm a Saints fan. This is signed by Drew Brees, by the way, guys. How cool is that? It's cool to me. It's cool to me. All right. Shout out, Drew. My 2 predictions for the New Orleans Saints, nothing crazy. If Kamara stays healthy is the big one. This is my biggest one. If Kamara stays healthy, I think he's going to lead the league in all-purpose yards. I think a lot of people have forgotten about Alvin Kamara. I think with the quarterback situation down there in New Orleans, don't get me wrong, my next bold prediction is about Tyler Shough, but I think that Kamara is going to be a big, big part of this offense this year. I think a lot of people have forgotten how good Alvin Kamara is. I think people think he's old now, and I've said a lot of different things about Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is still Alvin Kamara, baby. He's still exceptionally good. So that's my bold prediction for him. My other bold prediction for the New Orleans Saints was that 6-win season. A lot of people think they have one of the worst rosters in the league. But I think they could squeeze out 6 wins this year with the schedule that I'm looking at. Not only that, I think Tyler Shough surprises a lot of people and has his name in a ballot in the top 5 for Rookie of the Year. I really do. I think he's very pro-ready. I think as long as the Saints can protect him, which is the scariest part to me, that I'll be honest about, but I think as long as the Saints can protect him, if he's QB1, I'm all in for it. I think he can surprise a lot of people in a way of like a Brock Purdy or someone like that. If someone who's older, someone who's more ready, someone who has been in more situations, has had to fight for adversity through other situations and being in the bench. He was supposed to be Herbert's replacement over there in Oregon before he went to Texas Tech, before he went to all these places. So I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, and that's no bias, but I think that he is going to surprise a lot of people so far this year. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not going to lie. But moving on to that, with only 10 minutes left, I'm actually going to talk about this for a little bit, but then I'm going to get into my predictions, my way too early division winner predictions, and my Super Bowl winner predictions way too early, so it's written down for everyone to look back on all the way back in July. Past few seasons on this show, if you look back, my way too early predictions are in like week 2. Because I'm not in school until then. They're in like week 2. Now that I'm doing this at home, you're getting my way too early prediction way too early. So we could go back and see how right I was. And it will be fun to do when I look stupid and I say, blah, blah, blah is going to win the division and they have 4 wins or whatever. But what I do want to talk about for a second is some rookies, honestly, that have been showing up in camp. Everything that I've been hearing, surprisingly enough, usually is at this point, but everything I've been hearing from the rookies so far in camp has been absolutely unreal. Everyone, as usual, should be excited for their rookies, or their rookies are already a bust, as per usual. But some of the suspects that have been getting very, very good presses, you have Cam Ward, many saying that he has been shown up as a leader immediately in Tennessee. They feel like they have the one down there. From everything I'm reading is what it seems like. It just feels like that they have the one down there. They have who they feel like they want to have. But not only do you have them, or Cam Ward, you have Travis Hunter, who Jacksonville has been extremely, extremely, extremely impressed with down there with Travis Hunter and his ability to be able to play both sides and his just pure endurance. From everything I've read, they've just been absolutely exceptionally impressed with Travis Hunter down there. Not only that, some other names, Jackson Dart's getting great press. You have Golden over there in Green Bay. He showed up to be a stud, looks to arguably already be a wide receiver 1 candidate down there up there in Green Bay. Genty has been showing absolute power, what everyone expected. And 2 names that I've been reading a lot online in not any beat reporter forms, because I haven't really gotten to the beat report yet, but in more the major CBS, those types of news. 2 names I have heard a lot out of that you may hear this year could surprise a lot of people. Some of those non-first round picks is Trey Amos, 2nd round pick out of Ole Miss. He's a cornerback out there in Washington. Apparently he's been getting a lot of reps at cornerback at that slot position, which is big for Washington. They got Marshawn Lattimore out there. In a division with someone like Philadelphia, if Amos could be a big name if he's able to shut down some of these running backs, like I expect Scatabo to be, like you always expect Saquon Barkley to be, Dallas, but you know what I'm saying. So Dallas, you have a good receiving core, though. They're probably going to run a lot of three wide over there in Dallas, with DK Metcalf, or not DK, with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb over there. You're going to run a lot of three wide. So if Gallup is that third guy, you're going to need someone good in those games. So apparently look out for Trey Amos. And not only that, linebacker in Carolina, Nick Skirton, apparently getting a lot of reps with that first team at linebacker. He has been very, 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 very impressive. So, yeah. Before I also get into my predictions, I do want to say shout out to the Hall of Famers. I'm at that point in my life. I'm going to sound like an old man. I'm 23. I ain't no old man, but we are at the point in my life, at least, where the people introduced into the Hall of Fame are people I watched as a very little kid. So some of them are very near and dear to my heart, whether they're played for my favorite teams or not. Whether they ever see this or not, shout out CC Sabathia. Congratulations to him making the Hall of Fame. Can't wait to see his number retired for the New York Yankees as well whenever that happens. Just such an exceptional player. One of my favorite players growing up. Just so good on the mound. Just his command. And people always talk about this. I don't vividly remember these times. It's a little too early for me, but just his days in Milwaukee where he would pitch in a contract year, trying to get that contract that he ended up getting from the Yankees, pitched on a contract year on 3 days rest every single day for the rest of the year. Just such ridiculous things out of CC Sabathia. So shout out him. Shout out Ichiro. I think a fan favorite for everyone and anybody who's ever watched baseball from when I was a little kid. Watching Ichiro was just like watching a tutorial tape on how to play baseball correctly, just the way that he'd be able to poke the ball anywhere that he wanted in the field, the way that he ran the bases, the way that he played, so fundamentally sound. It's almost like a Tim Duncan-like player. So shout out Ichiro, both of them making the Baseball Hall of Fame last weekend. And when it comes to the Football Hall of Fame this weekend, the two especially I really want to talk about, Jared Allen, former Minnesota Vikings D-end, a man that I used to love watching, having a best friend who's a Packer fan. I watched a lot of Vikings-Packers games growing up, and I watched a lot of Jared Allen. And Jared Allen was so impressive. He was just one of those players where there's a group of players where I feel like that this internet generation is skipping over, where there's those early 2000s players that everyone talk about, and then there's now with the J.J. Watts and the little bit earlier than now players, and then the now players like Myles Garrett. But, you skip I feel like not a lot of people today, even though I know especially the older generation respects them. I know my generation respects them. But you don't hear about the Julius Peppers and the Jared Allens, who were absolutely ridiculous. And then on the other side of the ball, Antonio Gates, former Charger, absolutely amazing. Antonio Gates was up there. To me, was my favorite tight end growing up outside of Jimmy Graham. I love to watch Antonio Gates play. Him and Phillip Rivers were just such an iconic connection growing up. It was just such a 1-2 punch that watching both of them leave San Diego when the Chargers were in San Diego and leave was so upsetting. So congratulations to them on making the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I can't wait to watch their induction speeches this weekend and just hear all about it and talk all about it next week on Tuesday. Yeah, we're at 3 o'clock, so I'm going to be honest with you guys. We're leaving the predictions for next week. I know. But we are. We're going to leave the way too early predictions for next week so I can really get in deep about all of them and I don't feel rushed for time. I want to try to keep this on somewhat of a consistent basis. Sometimes I will run over just based off talking and stuff like that, like I am now. But I don't want to start a new bit with 1 minute left. I do want to try to keep this at an hour until I get back in the flow of things. Maybe we'll extend to 2 hours depending on, honestly, my real life work schedule. Not getting paid for this yet, guys, so I'm just having fun here. But I feel so good to be back in the seat, be back on the podcast. Next week, hopefully, I want to say, maybe the week after, within the next stream or two, if it helps you guys, I will also be dual streaming on TikTok. There's some technical difficulties where I'm not able to do it for a few weeks, but I am going to get this on TikTok too. So hopefully that will expand the audience. I'll bring a lot more people in. Just a lot more to the audience, a lot more people for me to talk about sports, and just say my opinion. You know, I know everyone's not going to agree with me. I know people are going to boo me. Say boo log show. Oh, this guy. Oh, who's this guy? A lot of people are going to say, who's this guy talking? What does he know about the Mets? What does he know about the Yankees? He's 23. I don't know anything. I'll be honest. I'm here to talk, though, because I like it. Thank you guys all for tuning in today. I am Logan. This is The Log Show. I will see you guys next Tuesday at the same time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Anybody who tunes in later on YouTube, thank you for watching. Yeah, and I will see you guys all next week. Peace out.